Hello and welcome to Kai's Corner. This is my first official YouTube video, and I'm so excited to start bringing content to life. This has been a dream to really start my own YouTube channel and start providing sports content, and I'm so excited that I kind of have the tools now to start building this operation, and I really want to provide some good quality content for everybody out there to be engaged in and to really start understanding sports at a higher level and to be more engaged with the sports that they're actually watching. Across all four of the major sports in the U.S., my favorite one is baseball, which is why today, with the first video, we'll be talking about the 5 most underrated players in the MLB before the All-Star break. The first player on this list that I want to get into is Camilo Dval. There's many reasons as to why Dval has been a little underappreciated and a little bit underrated. A lot of it kind of has to do with the team he's on, and a lot of it has to do with the fact of how horrible his 2024 season was. For many of you who don't know, Tranquilo Camilo Dval is the San Francisco Giants closer, who is also in the thumbnail of this video. If you figured it out, congratulations. He has been absolutely shoving this year with a 1.5 ERA at the time I'm recording this video, with over 30 plus Ks and less than 30 innings pitched. Camilo Dval has been that dog and has always been that dog. However, many people are overlooking how good he's actually been. Camilo Dval started his career with the Giants back in 2015, where he signed his first major league contract at just 18 years old during international free agency. Camilo Dval would wait 6 years until he made it all the way to the bigs during the 21-22 season, where he would pitch 27 innings, striking out 37 batters, allowing 9 earned runs, picking up his first 3 career saves, and also ending the year with a 3.0 ERA. Camilo Dval had a lot of stress going into 2022, as many people in the higher-up offices were looking at him to be the next closer for the Giants. However, as the classic saying goes, pressure forms diamonds, and that's exactly what happened. Camilo Dval entered 2022-2023 looking strong and confident and ending the year with a sub-3 ERA, striking out his career high with 80 batters and also picking up 27 saves. He was absolutely shoving. He looked like an all-star caliber pitcher, and everybody was excited to see what he was going to do in 2023. Entering 2023, Camilo had already locked down the closing role and was ready to get things moving again for the Giants bullpen, and he did just that once more. Ending the year with 39 saves, which was a league-leading high, also had 87 strikeouts, which was a career high for Camilo and a career high in innings pitched. Camilo Dval made his first All-Star Game appearance where he picked up the win for the National League, which was the first time in almost a decade that the National League had picked up a win from the All-Star Game. Camilo Dval had a lot to contribute during the Giants' 2023 season. However, the Giants still would not find themselves in a playoff opportunity and would still fall short before October baseball. Camilo Dval entered 2024 with even higher expectations. However, a very lackluster start to the season made the Giants force his hand and send him down to AAA for the remainder of the 2024 season. However, Camilo would get brought back in the late stages of April, where the Giants were practically already taken out of playoff contention. There was one player who stepped up in Camilo's role. That was Ryan Walker, a middle to late relief reliever who stepped up in the biggest way when Camilo left. Ryan Walker was forced to move down into the closing role for the Giants, where he was a 1-2 pitch type of guy with a sinker-slider mix that was practically unhittable to most average hitters. However, with Ryan Walker being limited in the closing role, not too many teams were seeing his pitches that often, which resulted in more strikeouts, more groundouts, and a higher whiff rate. Camilo Dval, regardless of his 2024 season, the Giants still had a great closer in Ryan Walker. So, entering the 2025 season, there was a big decision to make for the Giants higher-ups. Do we keep the 4-year veteran entering his 5th year in the league, who has proven himself and already earned an All-Star Game appearance, to continue and try to be as dominant as he once was? Or do we give it to the guy from 2024 who practically saved our bullpen? With the Giants making this decision, clearly they went with Ryan Walker to start things out for the early part of the season. However, 3 blown saves by Ryan Walker forced their hand to move back to Camilo Dval, who's absolutely been killing it. I mentioned his stats earlier. Camilo Dval is one of the best closers in the league with his ERA, his whiff rate, his whip rate, and his FIP rate. They are all insane, all in the top 5 category, and Camilo Dval is looking like his prime-time self. The Giants are really hoping for another stellar year out of him, and so far it looks like they're getting prime time Camilo Dval back, and it looks like he could be on his way to his second All-Star game in the last 3 years. The next player on this list that I want to talk about is Randy Rodriguez, the Giants' middle relief pitcher. I know the Giants theme here for the first two guys kind of sucks. I apologize. I promise you there will be more players that are not Giants related right after this. Randy Rodriguez has a .61 ERA, and I hope that's enough for you guys to stay on track with me. Randy Rodriguez has pitched through 29 and a third inning and has a .61 ERA with 43 strikeouts and a 3-0 win-loss record. Also, this is through 28 appearances. Randy Rodriguez has been dealing for the San Francisco Giants. He has been phenomenal and almost leads every reliever in these major categories. Randy Rodriguez has been great. It is his second year in the big leagues. After a rough first year in the bigs, Randy Rodriguez was getting sent up and back down again after some command issues. However, after he started locating his fastball, starting to use his changeup effectively, and really working his slider in counts that favored him, he has been incredible. And I cannot wait to see how well this kid starts performing once he starts maturing and once he starts becoming a full-fledged veteran. This is a guy that everybody's got to keep their eye on, because one of the next people on this list that I really want to get into about is Jacob Wilson, possibly one of the best, if not the best, hitting shortstop in all of baseball right now. I know you might be thinking, Kai, you're crazy. Bobby Witt, Ellie De La Cruz, Gunnar Henderson. To me, Jacob Wilson is becoming a phenomenal shortstop. This was a kid that was mashing already back in college. He was originally a GCU Lope and broke almost every single college school record that GCU had, from batting average, OBP, OPS, OPS plus, home runs, doubles, triples. This kid was mashing over at his former college. Jacob Wilson is accustomed to doing the sort of thing that he's doing now. And for many of you who may not know what his stats look like, let me tell you. 250 ABs, a .372 batting average, which is second in the AL behind Judge. And if we take a look, too, at how well of a player he's been, let's look at his RBI totals right around the 40 mark, 5 home runs on the year. This kid's OBP is insane, almost out of 400. And you want to know something more crazy about Jacob Wilson? This kid was a month into the major leagues before he recorded his first walk. His first walk took over a month, and he was still hitting above 300 before he did that. Jacob Wilson is a dog. He's here to stay. He's here to play baseball, and I'm loving everything he's doing. The Oakland A's, or I guess the Sacramento A's, or the Vegas A's, or what Wayne Kuiper called them was the Oaklamento A's, or whatever the athletic pronunciation you want to go with. Overall, the A's have historically not been able to keep infielders on the squad. Let's take a look at Matt Olson. Let's take a look at Matt Chapman, shall we? Even Jason Giambi. There's plenty of players that have left the diamond, especially inside of the dirt patches that we call the infield, from the A's squad. One of them being the fact that the A's just don't want to re-sign anybody to big contracts. However, maybe there's a change. We saw during this offseason the A's were able to spend some money on core players like Brett Rooker and Lawrence Butler, especially the fleece of a contract that they got for Lawrence Butler, which was insane. Lawrence Butler definitely deserved a little bit more cash in my opinion, but hey, the A's were able to get it done with him, and I guess that's all that matters. Overall, I think that this team is really trying to make a push to be a good squad again, even though that they left Oakland. I think this is a team that's really trying to be rebuilding at a time that they need to in order to not lose their fan base. I think it's crucial that this squad starts performing at a higher level once again, and a lot of that's going to have to do with building up the infield. There's lots of core players right now sitting inside of the farm system for the A's, one of them being Nick Kurtz, who's on his rehab assignment, who's meant to be one of the best upcoming first baseman prospects, next to Bryce Eldridge, who's allegedly supposed to also give Jacob Wilson a run for his money for Rookie of the Year for the AL. I personally think the A's have a lot of good upcoming stars that they can really make use out of inside of their lineup, and I'm excited to see how this squad alternates their pitching rotation in the future years of this organization. I'm really excited too to see how Jacob Wilson does throughout the rest of this year. I think there's a chance he even makes the case for an All-Star game appearance. Who knows? I understand that a lot of you guys might be asking me to kind of describe why I think Jacob Wilson's underrated, even though he's a favorite for the Rookie of the Year award in the AL. I don't necessarily think that he's underrated as much as I think he's underappreciated as a hitter. This guy is absolutely killing baseballs and not walking. He is the Barry Bonds equivalent right now of baseball. And I think that's one of the biggest reasons as to why I think Jacob Wilson is a star caliber player and an all-star caliber player. I think Jacob Wilson is performing at a super high level, one that Bobby Witt and Gunnar Henderson haven't even been able to touch yet in their careers. And I love to see young breakout stars do well underneath tight circumstances, especially for ball clubs like the A's that desperately need the hitting and the offense to spark something inside of the organization to say, hey, look, let's get back on track and let's start winning some ball games for the fans. I think Wilson is the perfect slice of life for what the A's need right now in order to start building a squad that will last for generations. This is one of the reasons why I add Jacob Wilson to my list. One of the next players that I want to talk about more on this list is none other than the 37-year-old left-handed closer that's been feared now for almost a decade and a half. Aldis Chapman is having a resurgence year that has been looking absolutely phenomenal. Aldis Chapman so far has a 1.71 ERA, which is top 20 among most qualified relievers and closers in the league. He also has one of the best opponent batting averages that stands at 160, which is good enough for top 20 in the league as well among all closers. Aldis Chapman is definitely having a bounce back year, and it's been absolutely phenomenal for the Boston Red Sox, who have really been trying to make a push towards the AL East divisional title, especially after them just calling up Roman Anthony, the top prospect in all of baseball, and also with Marcelo Mayer, who's been looking like he's going to be on a tear for the next long while. Aldis Chapman has definitely had some help bringing in this bullpen to its full potential and really making players out of nothing. Aldis Chapman has been a great voice and has been a great veteran presence in the clubhouse, and especially for some of the younger bullpen arms that are being brought up by the Boston Red Sox are definitely making a case for the AL East Divisional. I think that there's a lot of core players that go into this Boston Red Sox squad. The bullpen is one of the most lacking areas. However, with Aldis' presence, I do think that this is a bullpen that can turn around. Their bullpen ERA is definitely not horrible. However, I do think it can be a little bit better. There are some improvements. I do think, too, that there's not too many strong pieces in the starting rotation, especially after Garrett Crochet got on the day-to-day list. I think that there's a lot more potential out here for this Red Sox squad, but Aldis Chapman is having a bounce-back year, and a year that a lot of us haven't seen from him since his last All-Star appearance in 2019. I think the last player on this list that I want to go over is none other than Michael Garcia, the third baseman for the Kansas City Royals, who's been absolutely killing it this year and has been one of the most underrated third basemen so far throughout this 25 season. Michael Garcia also leads all third basemen in batting average. He is one of the best OBPs among all qualified third basemen, has a top 5 RBI total among third basemen, and is also top 5 in slugging, OPS, as well as OPS+. Michael Garcia has been on an absolute tear so far for the Kansas City Royals, and he's by far one of the most underrated third basemen entering this year. Manny Machado and Nolan Arenado are both still dealing at high caliber levels despite their age. However, Michael Garcia is entering his third year in the bigs, and he's already at 25 extra base hits, which, in case you don't know, his career high is 39, and we're not even at the All-Star break yet. Garcia is definitely looking to have a career-high season, and he's breaking his career records as we speak. This is a guy that's definitely going to transform an offense in Kansas that has been so dormant for so long in this first half. I think that he's exactly what the Kansas City Royals need right now, especially with them calling up Jack Caglione, their top prospect, who just had a 4-hit night, his first ever multi-hit game during his rookie year. I think that this is going to be a great player to move forward with for the Royals. I think there's so much upside to Garcia. His glove needs a little bit of work. However, besides that, you take a look at the numbers, the hitting totals are there, and they speak volumes. Thank you everybody so much for watching Kai's Corner. I appreciate everybody staying for the first video, and I promise there will be more. We're going to try to post at least 3 times a week. If not, there will be 2 times, but I'll space them out accordingly, so don't even stress. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and this was the first episode of Kai's Corner.